And once again, ciao, hi, hey, hola, amigos. And welcome to Autism Fridays or Autistic Fridays. So I'm finally back here with part two. It took me a while to avoid procrastination and get on with this one. I was a bit hungry, so I had to have something to eat. So I tried to find what I could, some garlic bread, but that's about it. But anyway, so yeah, this is part two. Pointers number 11 to 20, but as per usual, I hope people out there will let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you won't be too harsh. Yeah, due to my alliterations, as usual, I think of things that begin with F. Fridays, a cleaner version for Facebook and YouTube. The family friendly version, that kind of thing. So yeah, here you go. So number 11, I was thinking, I wonder what could be done to support many autistic people with like changing finances, becoming more financially and generally independent. Again, I'm thinking of words on the left because it's a Friday, so I'm thinking of things like football, finance, things like financing football, I guess I could think of. Yeah, many autistic people like need support to live it more independently, perhaps, and to be financially and generally more independent. Another thing I was thinking about is like food or diet. I was thinking about that a few days ago, but I thought I'd wait till today. I think it might have been Wednesday or Tuesday when I thought about this. But I think like I talked about how I may or may not be autistic, and I'd love to take the test for autism on, as well as ADHD, on my Facebook and YouTube. I'd love to do a live test one day if I get my butt around to it. Maybe in August, my brain around to it, I should say. But maybe in August, my birth month. That'd be pretty cool. I don't think I'll get around to it this month. So, yeah, test for autism and ADHD and or ADHD. But combine that, it might well be that I find that I'm not any of those things and have other conditions instead, or whatever, or I'm just mad, or whatever. I'm not saying autistic people are mad or whatever, but some of the things might be mistaken as such. I don't think I have all these conditions, but I suppose I'd perhaps have to take some sort of test, maybe. Although with like depression, someone told me you're either depressed or not, you kind of know whether you are or not. But yeah, changing, like helping autistic people to become more financially and or generally independent. I know the reason why I mentioned, I almost forgot to my point, which is about food and diets and all that kind of thing. I'm very rebellious when it comes to food and diet, and I'm very idealistic. I wasn't sure whether to mention this in full in part one when I was talking about like Elon Musk and how he said he has Asperger's syndrome, and I was thinking, is it the sort of term that not everyone likes to use nowadays, but high functional autism, if you like, or whatever. But he said he has Asperger's syndrome, and there was an article saying he probably doesn't care too much what other people think about him and that kind of. But I was thinking like how he talked about how to run a business you have to work really hard. If you work twice as hard as other people, you like to achieve more and all this sort of stuff. But I love to have like nice and easy. And I think we both. It could well be that. That's something I've got with Elon Musk. Male. But on a slightly more serious note, it could well be that if I have autism and he has autism, that it could well be that a big hypothetical. If, as I say, it could well be that like he isn't, because I was thinking about the theme about how we take things literally. So it could well be that he is talking about from his experience, and I'm sure many autistic people can be really blunt. It's something I can, well, not really because I'm a bit spineless. If I wasn't, I'd probably be quite blunt, not meaning to be. And in the past, I probably have been blunt without meaning to be. But yeah, I suppose he takes things literally and talking about he doesn't mind telling people about the work ethic it takes. Whereas I'm honest about like if I could get away with it, I'd only work like smart and have fun. One thing I forgot to say in part one is like I'd love to know from autistic people out there. I talked about like autistic people sharing their experiences, but one of the things I'd love to know is like what autistic people find fun to do, and maybe if autistic people share more of that information, the more other people find out about such experiences and things that autistic people find fun and comfortable and whatever. But the more people who find out about that, the more they'll be able to treat autistic people better, hopefully over time. Obviously not everyone's going to be nice, but nice and friendly or whatever. But I don't know why that was with F friendly. But many people might be like, oh yeah, autistic people enjoy this place to work, to do their art in peace and quiet or whatever, or enjoy writing or whatever it might be. Yeah, as I say, improving diets, but I'm very rebellious with my diets. Is the point I was trying to make. And if I could, I know I've mentioned in the past, I'd love to drink Pepsi and Coke, tea. I won't finish this mug, but any resemblance. But one of my sisters got me that for my immaturity, I guess. Because most of the main shopping, I don't really like doing shopping. I like when it comes to like going to a corner store or corner shop or whatever. I'm okay with that, but I don't like to go to the main shop. And even like using my card, I'm not very comfortable with that. And I thought it's another thing to learn. I wasn't some of the other problems. So like I'm not very receptive to learning like new languages or new things. Or I like to use cash. I used to write my checkout and all that kind of thing for myself. But yeah, so I thought it's just if I learn how to use a card or whatever, it's another thing to learn or whatever. It's another risk or it's another thing to learn or another thing to worry about and all that kind of. But moving on, number 12. I'd say it'd be cool for organisations to help autistic people to get training to sort out finances, budgeting, helpful fields to work in, and that kind of thing. And I'm sure there's something I was going to say for point number 12, but I've completely forgotten it. But I'd love to know motivational stories from autistic people and about autistic people and what autistic people find more. I'll say what autistic people find fun, and I'll mention that one. But yeah, like famous autistic people and things that inspire autistic people and that kind of thing. And some of the strengths of autism, I guess. I don't remember left, but on the 23rd, yesterday, I guess I forgot. I was talking about my idea for an anti-imperial network for countries that are colonised by Britain. For those who didn't see it, that's what I was talking about. Obviously, those who have seen it will know. In my usual 4-part list videos, but I was going to mention about Temple Grandin, who discovered something about how animals feel certain pain and that kind of thing. So helped to devise a more humane thing for the treatment of animals. And I mentioned recently about how, like, if I see, I might be mixing up the conversation I had with an atypical group on WhatsApp and WhatsApp groups, but like if people could come up with ideas, like atypical or autistic people especially, and atypical people maybe more generally, coming up with ideas like how to make the world a better place for animals, people, and especially children, and just generally better for nature and that kind of thing. Although I do feel a bit hypocritical with my hoarding, but yeah, finding ideas for that, how to help stray animals or animals that have been abandoned and that kind of thing, how to build a more compassionate world for animals, and people, especially children and younger people. Yeah, I'm sure there's something else I was saying, point number 12, but I've completely forgotten. Oh yeah, I think I was going to say about fitness, working out on fitness as well. And on Wednesday I mentioned about walking, working out and that kind of thing. But moving on, number 13, from a selfish point of view, as usual, I'd love to come up with ways to benefit time for water. I think before, when I made videos, if I remember correctly, I wore this cap for part 1 and I wore the Interman version, even though they're rivals, because I'm a mad fan of the time for water. I wore this for part 2, I think, in the past, but I've decided to switch them around, and I think because the number 13 makes me think like the devil, and their nicknames are the devil, so hence I use it, point number 13. But as I say, seeing what autistic people can do, and again atypical people generally, to benefit Italian for one. And I know Italian for one, and probably teams from England and around the world. I'm sure the FA has done work as well, and the EPL, the English Premier League, and English teams as well. I'm sure teams around the world have probably done work with autism, with autistic people and autism empowerment. But I know Italian football has as well. And having like miniature World Cups for autistic people within Italy itself, and maybe even inviting those from outside of the nation, outside of the country, those from the diaspora and people generally with autism, to play football in Italy and hopefully help with town football to practice. And also, again, showing what ideas autistic people, as well as other atypical people or neurodivergent people, again, or whatever term you want to use, can contribute to Italian football from a selfish point of view. So yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. For Italian football teams generally, Serie A teams, AC Milan, Fiorentina, Roma, and Italian football generally, the national team, the FIGC, the Italian FA, autistic people working with them, and vice versa. And giving opportunities for autistics in Italy to get into football and get into the national team, which could be a pathway for a productive and enjoyable, a productive and an enjoyable career path. Moving on to number 14, I'd say solving problems like fitness, diet, and things like that, and finding solutions to problems with finance and that kind of thing that autistic people might face. Number 15, it'll be interesting to find out different fields autistic people work on, like whether in finance or whatever, how many autistic people are in finance or in different fields, and what are some bad and what are some good fields for autistic people to work with. I guess for a lot of autism, it's probably different to the individual, for each individual, but sometimes there are traits like working with the public might be bad for many autistic people. Or whatever careers, and there might be many that are good for autistic people, like even like making video games or things like that. I hope to help people in Africa, including autistic and non-autistic people in Africa, to make video games, and maybe again autistic people could share their ideas on that and support people from across Africa in video game making and that kind of thing, including their fellow autistics and atypical people, as they could do that generally. I think technology is a big area for autistic people, although I'm talking about that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as I mentioned at that time. But also, I'd say I'd love to support autistic people to reach their ambitions, reach their aspirations and that kind of thing, and be supported with their ambitions and aspirations, aims and that kind of thing, in different fields, whatever those fields may be, which might be different individuals, but there probably are certain areas of strengths and areas which are more apt or appropriate for autistic people who might need opportunities to get into those fields. I'd love for atypical people generally to network. So even if I'm not autistic and triple, if I don't have ADHD and triple autism, I'd still love to network with autistic and triple ADHD people from the atypical networks, broadening the network, looking at what we have in common, what commonalities and differences, similarities and differences, and that kind of thing. And moving on to number 16, say what are the best ways to financially and generally empower autistic people? And I think it'd be cool to find out what autistic people think about finances and how important money and finances are for autistic people. And it would be interesting to see if autistic people are motivated by money as much as other people, or more than, or less than, or whatever. And again, how to support autistic people in different fields, including finances and budgeting and business and things like that. I'd love for atypical people to network together, so we run our own businesses. But some might not want to do that. Some might want to do a regular job. It would save the taxpayer a lot of money financially if autistic people could be, and as well as atypical people generally, although again I'm trying to focus more on autistics, but it would be cool if autistic people were supported not to have to rely on benefits or ethical criminality and that kind of thing. That would save the taxpayer a lot of money. And again, learning how to budget, how to invest, run businesses, network together, and work in different fields that are more apt for autistics as individuals and as a group, could be a great way to save the governments around the world a lot of money. I'd love for us to invest to the point, atypical people generally, as I say, to invest to the point where we would have money coming into our account for our investments, whether we work or not. If we were a trusted fund, maybe we could take pension and savings out and have that invested, which means it will go further, and it will mean we can take it out when we're younger and still use it. We'll have to wait till we're older, but it would also grow, be invested to multiply and that kind of thing through an investment, which is right support. But obviously, you've got to be wary of scams and all that kind of thing. And I suppose people with autism might be naive in some areas as well, or even just generally in many cases. So having that trust fund, where people know the money's going to come back and be multiplied and all that kind of thing, and autistic people and their families and support networks could actually help them as well as helping each other. I think it'd be cool if, although they're not autistic as far as I'm aware, but two dyslexic people, Richard Branson and Charles Schwab, through Virgin Money and Schwab Corp, could invest on behalf of all atypical people, or as many of us as possible. Sometimes they could teach us to invest, and sometimes they could invest on our behalf. And I thought different scenarios, for those who might not have heard me mention them in the past, I'll say as quickly as I can. Investing so let's say someone who either can't get a job, or they worry about whether they can keep their job, or in the future they may not want to work in that job. But so ideally for me, we wouldn't have to rely on a job or anything illegal like stealing or anything like that. Or I'd love to discourage autistic and other atypical people, or whatever you call us, from breaking the law. So we wouldn't have to rely on a job or breaking the law or relying on benefits. Ideally, maybe I'm being very naive and idealistic, but ideally, in my dream, we would have that money coming in through investments, so that we would have that money coming in, as whether we work or not. So again, if we were struggling, we were worried about whether we can't get a job, or we can't keep a job, or let's say in the future you no longer have a job, what I call potential FU money. So if let's say you go to your boss and you no longer want to work and you want to focus on your hobbies or whatever, that you got that safety net. Again, it wouldn't come from state benefits or anything like that, or anything illegal. And say it would be through the investments, hopefully through the investments, which could be done on your behalf. I'll say like the generic Joe blogs or whatever, or different scenarios like person one on Joe blogs can't get a job, or Sarah blog, let's say, is worried about whether she can keep her job or whether one day she'll get fired. Does she have a safety net? I know some people want to work on savings or whatever, but if she's low paid and doesn't have much money or whatever, and Susie blogs, let's say, thinks, what if one day I no longer enjoy working? Like now I do enjoy working, but what if I no longer want to enjoy what if I no longer want to work and I can quit? But you wouldn't have to rely again on benefits or anything illegal, as you would normally have to do, because you would have that safety net. So I'd love to know what autistic people and their supporters and families included think about that, and whether it makes sense, and if people have questions and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, those different scenarios and what I call potential FU money. So FU money means like you can always quit your work, but I take things literally again. So taking things literally, I think like if your boss treats you well, the people you work for, your boss or bosses or whatever, if they treat you well, the organisation, you could always quit, but tell them in advance, like, oh, I've got this money and I want to focus on drawing or whatever it might be that I enjoy, my passions, playing football or whatever it might be. You would have that option, basically, to put it simply. But you would be able to tell them in advance. But if they treat you badly, you might want to rage quit or quiet quit, rage and stroke or quiet quit. So it'd be the same thing where you don't tell them and you leave them in the dark, because you treat them how they treated you. But moving on to point number 17, imagining autistic people using imagination to make like video games and create things, invent things, and see what they can achieve. And if you could just imagine like what we could achieve by working together as atypical people generally. Again, I'm being diagnosed with autism, I'm going to say, but I can still connect them, as I say, through supporting the atypical network and that kind of thing. And I want to empower people who have challenges generally as well. But yeah, as I say, imagining this investment working, imagining us as atypical people generally putting our money together through Virgin Money and Schwab Corp, and them teaching us how to budget, maybe even teaching some of us how to invest ourselves as well. And autistic people achieving their goals and putting their imaginations and ideas into action, being supported from ideas to put them into action. For instance, if they need the help. So thinking about imaginations, I'll say what we can create, and I'd love to see what autistic people can do for Tampa and Celtic and things like that. Number 18, I'd say famous autistics. I think it'd be interesting to find what who inspires autistic people. So it'd be great if autistic people, I'd say, get involved in the comments and say who it. I'll ask a question: which autistic person inspires you the most? It could be a family member, a friend, or a famous person, or whoever it might be. Obviously, I imagine it'd be someone you've heard of or know a bit about. I know they say never meet your idols, but so yeah, positive things about autism and finance and famous autistics, and maybe a network supporting each other, and that kind of thing. Number 19, I'd love to see what autistic people could do to help people in Africa and in developing nations generally, like help them to make video games and things like maybe African nations could host events for autistic and other atypical people, and autistic and other atypical people could show what they could do to help African video game makers and Africans to make their own websites and things like that to make or create video games. And number 20, as ever, I'd love to know what you think. I'm being too harsh, and if you have any other ideas to add, then I'll help out. Peace and love.